Good morning. My name is Chandrika Bahadur. We will just wait for a minute while we're waiting. I represent the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. This is a network of universities set up in 2012 at the request of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, with the goal of tapping into the expertise at universities and academia around the world to support the UN in promoting sustainable development. Now, what do we mean by sustainable development? It's a very, very broad term that means different things to different people. At the core of it, it is about 4 different elements that we believe need to come together. The first, economic growth, shared prosperity for people around the world, particularly in places of extreme poverty. Second, supported by a way of managing this growth that does not destroy the planet's resources and manages them responsibly. The third, making sure that this progress and this material growth actually is available to everyone on the planet, irrespective of race or nationality or gender or socioeconomic status. And finally, a way of governing ourselves that allows these 3 pillars to be achieved. So there is a belief now, I think shared by a large global community, that this challenge of sustainable development is the defining challenge of our times, and how we deal with it will create the future that we want. And that's really what we're working towards. Now, we at the network have over 300 members around the world, and we believe very strongly that unlike in the past, where policy making was restricted to governments, either national governments or regional governments, today that's just not possible. This challenge, the size of it, the magnitude of it, requires us to engage people at different levels. Ordinary citizens, particularly young students, because they will be the people who actually have to face the consequences of our response to sustainable development. And for that, at the network, our vision is to create a global community of what we call sustainable development practitioners, or people around the world who actually engage with this challenge and figure out for themselves and for their communities how to actually meet these challenges. To do that, we're in the process of creating an online university on sustainable development. And let me take you one step back as to why we think this is important. When the UN first started thinking about sustainable development, the first major event that it organized was in 1992. It was a summit that was popularly called the Earth Summit, which first laid out an agenda for what sustainable development could look like. Now, that was probably ahead of its time because 2 things were not present there that are present here for today. First, you had a lot of countries that were just embarking on their path of economic growth. So for them, environmental challenges was something to be faced in the future, not something to deal with today. The largest countries in the world, China, India, a lot of Latin America, Asia, were not really concerned as much about what it meant for them at that time. And the second big challenge was that the effects of environmental degradation, the effects of anthropogenic change on the planet was not evident in the way that it's evident today. So while the Earth Summit was a good coming together of people, it didn't really provoke the kind of urgent response that it set out to do. Let's fast forward to 2000, where the UN again convened about 180 heads of state at something called the Millennium Summit. Now, here the world agreed on a set of global goals. They were called the Millennium Development Goals, and they targeted reduction of extreme poverty, increases in educational outcomes, reductions in mortality across a range of preventable health conditions. Much more success. And I think for the first time, what the Millennium Goals showed the world was that global priority setting at the UN, which very often seems like a pie-in-the-sky exercise, can actually translate into changes in the way actors behave at the national and at the local level. Let's move to 3 years ago, 2012, 20 years after the Rio Summit, Rio plus 20, very imaginatively, the summit was held at Rio. And there, these 2 were meant to be married together. The experience of the global goals and the sustainable agenda, which was now becoming quite apparent as an urgent need. And that's what leads us to September this year, where again we're expecting a lot, probably 180 plus heads of state to come together in New York again to sign up to what are being called Sustainable Development Goals. Now, we won't go through this list, but suffice to tell you that this is a very, very wide range of topics, and we do not believe that governments alone will be able to solve these problems. So at the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, we have brought together an initiative bringing experts on each of these different areas and working with our 300-member universities to create what we call SDSN EDU. This is an online platform that we have created in partnership with EdCast. And the idea is to bring information at scale so that we can actually help people around the world, not in the tens, not in the 20s, but in the hundreds of thousands, to actually understand what sustainable development means for themselves. We want to be able to curate the best material on this topic and to put it together in one place for people to use. We want to be able to partner with our academic networks and our universities around the world so they can create their own content and bring that into a global pool. And finally, because we believe this is eventually aimed at improving practice, we want to reach out to people outside of the traditional student community. So policymakers, politicians, municipal workers, health workers are all targets for us to be able to re-enter the learning process and understand and decide for themselves what sustainable development means for them. These are the courses that are available right now. We're running several of these. And the list that you see up here are the courses in development that should be ready by the end of this year. Here's a quick look at what kind of an experience we've had. 137 countries, a fairly wide range of age distribution. And particularly on this slide, I want to point to two figures. First is 32% active engagement for the entire course. So of all the people that sign up, a third are actually engaged in looking at information, providing their own content. We have an active Facebook group of alumni that continue talking about these issues. So we're beginning to create this global community that we set out to do. What are the big lessons? I think from improving the platform and improving our offering perspective, the first thing that strikes us is that while we're encouraging students to engage and bring their own material, because this topic is so wide and so contextual to where people live, we don't have a great way of integrating that into revising our courses. So we have wonderful courses, great material. The students send fantastic information from their own countries. We don't yet know what to do with it. The second, we've been very good at producing high quality content, but that's not enough. We need to create a pull mechanism, and this is something that Carl continually reminds us of. We need a good marketing strategy to get this information out to the communities we need it in. Our completion rates are fairly high. We're looking at about 15 to 17% of completion on most of our courses, and that tells us that this is an interested audience that likes to stick with us. And that's encouraging for us, and we need to see if this continues throughout the momentum. The other major challenge for us is to make sure or encourage the students who take the course that they're naturally interested in to look at other aspects of sustainable development. And for people who are interested in climate science, to understand that public health is fairly important as well. And how do you get them to get interested in those courses? We're getting very high demand from our member institutions for blended learning programs. And this is something that is a huge challenge for us because academic institutions actually work very slowly. We're producing great content, our students want that content, but making it available for them as part of their program because they care about accreditation is actually quite hard. And finally, we have great experts on these different topics, but they are not experts in online teaching. And while the technology offers scope for innovation, they're not very good at doing it themselves. I think I'm completely out of time, so just quickly suffice to say that we're on track to creating a 12-course program by the end of this year and a full-fledged university by the end of next year. We believe SDSN EDU is going to be a movement to help achieve the SDGs, and we invite you to join us. So get in touch if you need any more information. Thank you.